What if the reason you haven't met your soulmate yet isn't bad luck, isn't timing, isn't distance, but something deep, invisible, and quietly shaping every connection you've ever had? And what if, the moment you understand this, everything in your life starts shifting in a way you never expected? Now listen carefully, because this isn't going to be the typical, just be patient message you've heard 1,000 times before. This is something deeper, something a little uncomfortable, something most people avoid facing, and that is exactly why they stay stuck for years, sometimes their entire lives, wondering why love never fully arrives, why every connection feels almost right but never quite complete, why they keep meeting people who reflect pieces of what they want but never the whole picture. And the truth is, the painful reason you haven't met your soulmate yet is not because they don't exist, not because you're not worthy, and not because the universe forgot about you, but because something inside you is still preparing, still healing, still learning how to recognize, receive, and hold the kind of love you say you want. Most people think meeting a soulmate is about luck or perfect timing, like two people randomly crossing paths at the right moment, but what they don't realize is that soulmate connections are not random at all, they are deeply intentional, and they require alignment, not just in circumstances, but in mindset, emotional maturity, and self-awareness. And if that alignment isn't there yet, the connection either won't appear or it won't stay, and that's where the pain begins, because from your perspective, it feels like something is missing, like life is unfair, like you're doing everything right but still not getting the one thing your heart truly wants. But here's the hard truth that most people don't want to hear. Sometimes, you haven't met your soulmate yet because you're still holding on to patterns, fears, or beliefs that would quietly destroy that connection if it arrived today. And I know that might sting a little, but think about it honestly. How many times have you found yourself attracted to the wrong kind of person? How many times have you ignored red flags because you didn't want to feel alone? How many times have you doubted your own worth, overthought every message, or tried to prove yourself to someone who wasn't fully showing up for you? These patterns don't just disappear when your soulmate arrives, they follow you into that connection, and if they're strong enough, they can push even the right person away. Another painful reason is that you may still be emotionally attached to a version of love that isn't real, maybe shaped by past experiences, movies, or fantasies, where everything feels intense, dramatic, and overwhelming, and because of that, when something calm, genuine, and healthy comes along, it doesn't feel like the one, it feels unfamiliar, even boring. And you walk away without realizing you just turned your back on the kind of love that actually lasts, because your mind has been trained to associate love with chaos instead of peace. And then there's timing, not in the simple sense of, it hasn't happened yet, but in the deeper sense that your life is still building the version of you who can truly recognize and sustain that connection, because meeting your soulmate isn't just about finding them, it's about being ready to not lose them. And that kind of readiness doesn't come from wishing or waiting, it comes from growth, from self-reflection, from learning hard lessons that shape your boundaries, your standards, and your understanding of what real love actually looks like. Sometimes, the reason is even more personal, more hidden, like the fear of being fully seen, because a soulmate doesn't just love your strengths, they see your flaws, your insecurities, your past wounds, and they don't run from them, and that level of intimacy can feel terrifying if you're not used to it, so without realizing it, you might be choosing situations where you stay slightly guarded, slightly distant, because it feels safer than opening up completely, and that safety, while comforting in the moment, quietly keeps your soulmate at a distance. There's also the possibility that you're still learning your own value, because if you don't truly believe you deserve deep, unconditional love, you'll either settle for less or push away more, and both of those paths lead to the same outcome, not meeting or not recognizing your soulmate when they appear, because your inner belief system acts like a filter, allowing in only what matches how you see yourself, and rejecting anything that feels too good or too different from what you're used to. And here is something most people never consider: your soulmate might have already crossed your path, but you weren't ready to see them. Maybe they came into your life at a time when you were distracted, focused on someone else, or going through something that made you close yourself off, and because of that, the connection never had the chance to fully develop, not because it wasn't real, but because the timing within you wasn't aligned yet. But don't let that thought discourage you, because soulmate connections have a strange way of reappearing when the timing finally aligns, when both people have grown into the versions of themselves that can truly meet each other. And that's why everything you're going through right now, every delay, every disappointment, every lesson, is not meaningless. It's shaping you, preparing you, refining your understanding of love so that when the moment comes, you don't just recognize your soulmate, you're able to build something real with them. The painful part is that this process often feels like nothing is happening, like you're stuck, like everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still, but in reality, some of the most important transformations happen quietly, internally, without visible signs, and just because you can't see the progress doesn't mean it's not happening. And maybe the hardest truth of all is this: meeting your soulmate is not the beginning of your happiness, it's the continuation of it. And if you're waiting for someone to come into your life and fix everything, to fill every empty space, to complete you, then you're placing a weight on that future connection that it was never meant to carry, because a soulmate doesn't complete you, they meet you where you are. And if where you are is filled with unresolved pain, self-doubt, or unmet expectations, that connection will struggle under the pressure. So the real question isn't, why haven't I met my soulmate yet? The real question is, what inside me is still growing, still healing, still preparing? Because once you start looking at it that way, everything changes. Your waiting turns into understanding, your frustration turns into awareness, and your journey starts to feel less like something is missing, and more like something is being built. And the moment you reach that shift, where you're no longer chasing love from a place of lack but living from a place of self-awareness and growth, that's when things begin to align in ways you couldn't force before. That's when the connections you attract start to feel different, deeper, more real. And that's when your soulmate, the person who truly resonates with who you are becoming, not who you used to be, begins to come into your life naturally. Without struggle, without confusion, without the constant question of, is this right? Because when it's aligned, you won't have to force it, and you won't have to doubt it. So if you're feeling the pain of not having met your soulmate yet, don't ignore it, don't suppress it, but also don't misinterpret it, because that pain is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. It's a signal that something within you is still unfolding, still preparing for a connection that will match the person you are becoming, not the person you were when you first started searching for love. And maybe, just maybe, the reason it hasn't happened yet is because when it finally does, It's meant to be something so real, so aligned, and so lasting that every delay, every lesson, every moment of waiting will make sense in a way that you can't fully understand right now, but you will, and when that moment comes, you won't look back with regret, you'll look back with clarity, realizing that you weren't being denied love. You were being prepared for the kind of love that actually stays. And what if I told you? The longer your soulmate is delayed, the deeper the connection is meant to be, and the universe is not withholding them from you. It's protecting both of you from meeting at the wrong version of yourselves. Because here's something most people never realize, and it's uncomfortable to accept, but incredibly powerful once you do. Not every version of you is meant to meet your soulmate. There are older versions of you that would have misunderstood them, pushed them away, or even turned that connection into something painful, and that's why the delay feels so intense, because your heart is ready for love. But your inner world is still being reshaped into someone who can actually hold it without breaking it. Think about who you used to be just a few years ago, the way you handled emotions, the kind of people you were drawn to, the things you tolerated, the way you reacted to conflict or distance, and now imagine meeting your soulmate in that exact state. Would you have recognized them, or would you have confused them for someone too different, too calm, or not exciting enough? And that's the hidden truth. Sometimes the very qualities that define a real soulmate connection feel unfamiliar until you've grown enough to understand them. Another painful layer of this journey is that you might still be carrying emotional residue from people who were never meant to stay, and even if you think you've moved on, there are often small, invisible pieces of those experiences still shaping your expectations, your fears, and your reactions, and those pieces can act like barriers, not obvious walls, but subtle distortions that affect how you perceive new connections, making you either overly cautious or overly attached, both of which can prevent something real from developing naturally. And then there's the illusion of almost love, the kind of connection that feels close enough to convince you it might be your soulmate, but something always feels slightly off, slightly incomplete, and yet you hold on to it longer than you should, hoping it will turn into what you truly want. And the painful truth is that these experiences are not accidents, they are lessons, they are showing you what your soulmate is not. They are refining your understanding so that when the real connection appears, you don't confuse it with something that only looks similar on the surface. Sometimes, the delay is also about your environment, your habits, your daily life, because your soulmate isn't just going to appear out of nowhere. They will enter your life through a path, a routine, a decision, and if your current lifestyle keeps you in the same patterns, the same circles, the same limited experiences, then you may not be crossing the paths where that connection can naturally happen. And that's why growth isn't just internal, it's also external. It's about becoming the version of yourself who lives in alignment with the kind of life where your soulmate exists. There's also a deeper emotional truth that many people struggle with, and that is the fear of losing yourself in love, because maybe, at some point in your life, you gave too much of yourself to someone who didn't value it. Maybe you lost your identity, your peace, or your sense of control, and now, even if you consciously want a deep connection, there's a part of you that hesitates, that holds back, that doesn't fully open, because it's trying to protect you from experiencing that kind of loss again. And while that protection feels necessary, it can also prevent you from experiencing the kind of love that doesn't require you to lose yourself in the first place, and raise something even deeper, something that most people don't talk about. Your soulmate is also on their own journey, facing their own lessons, healing their own wounds, becoming the person who can meet you at the same level. And just like you're not ready at certain points in your life, neither are they, and the timing of your meeting depends on both of your growth paths aligning, not just one, and that's why you can't force it, no matter how much you want to. This is where patience becomes more than just waiting, it becomes trust, not blind trust, but an understanding that there are forces shaping your path in ways you can't fully see yet, and that every experience, even the painful ones, is moving you closer to something that is meant to last, not something temporary, not something that fades, but something that fits. But patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means actively becoming aware of yourself, your patterns, your triggers, your beliefs. About love, it means questioning the stories you've been telling yourself, like, maybe love isn't meant for me, or maybe I always choose the wrong people, because those beliefs don't just reflect your past, they shape your future, and if you don't change them, they will keep recreating the same outcomes. And maybe one of the most painful realizations is that you might have to let go of the timeline you had in your mind, the idea that you should have met your soulmate by a certain age, or at a certain stage of life, because love doesn't follow a schedule, it follows alignment, and sometimes that alignment takes longer than you expected, not because something is wrong, but because something deeper is being built. The truth is, when you finally meet your soulmate, it won't feel like the chaotic, uncertain connections you've experienced before. It will feel different in a way that's hard to explain. There will be a sense of clarity, of ease, of mutual understanding that doesn't require constant questioning, and that kind of connection can only happen when both people have done the inner work to recognize and sustain it. So the delay you're feeling right now, as painful as it is not empty, it's not meaningless, it's filled with preparation, with growth, with moments that are shaping you into someone who doesn't just find love, but keeps it, nurtures it, and builds something real with it. And if you can start to see your journey from that perspective, not as something that's lacking, but as something that's evolving, then the pain begins to shift. It doesn't disappear completely, but it transforms into something more purposeful, something that gives you strength instead of taking it away. Because at the end of the day, your soulmate is not just someone you meet, they are someone you are ready for, and the moment you truly become that version of yourself, not perfect, but aware, grounded, and aligned, that's when everything starts to change, not because you chased it harder, but because you finally became the person who could receive what you've been asking for all along. And what if the final, hidden reason you haven't met your soulmate yet is because the version of love you're asking for requires a level of transformation that most people never reach, and you are being pushed toward it whether you realize it or not. Because now we go even deeper, beyond timing, beyond healing, beyond patterns, into something that feels almost invisible but controls everything, and that is your identity, not who you think you are on the surface, but who you believe you are at your core, because every relationship you attract, every connection you hold on to, every person you feel drawn to is a reflection of that identity. And if that identity is still rooted in doubt, fear, or the need for validation, then even if your soulmate stood right in front of you, something inside you would resist it, question it, or unconsciously sabotage it. This is where most people get stuck without realizing it. They focus on finding the right person, but they don't focus on becoming the version of themselves who can naturally align with that person, and because of that, they keep attracting situations that match their current state, not their desired one, and that creates a cycle that feels impossible to break, because from the outside it looks like bad luck. But from the inside it's a pattern repeating itself over and over again. And here's the painful part that very few are willing to admit: sometimes you're not just waiting for your soulmate, you're also addicted to the feeling of searching, to the emotional highs and lows, to the idea of almost finding it, because it gives you something to hold on to, something to chase, something that keeps your heart engaged without requiring you to fully confront yourself. And breaking out of that cycle means stepping into a level of self-awareness that can feel uncomfortable at first, because it requires you to let go of illusions you've been holding onto for a long time. There's also the truth that real soulmate connections don't come with constant confusion, mixed signals, or emotional instability, and if that's what you've been experiencing, then it's not because your soulmate is complicated, it's because those connections are not your soulmate. They are reflections of unresolved parts within you that are still seeking closure, still seeking understanding, still trying to heal through repetition. And until those parts are acknowledged and released, they will continue to attract the same kind of situations in different forms. Another layer of this journey is learning the difference between loneliness and alignment, because sometimes the feeling of "I haven't met my soulmate yet" is actually a deeper feeling of disconnection, not just from others, but from yourself, from your purpose, from the life you're building. And when you're in that state, you might look to a relationship as the solution, as the missing piece that will make everything feel complete. But that's not how it works, because a soulmate connection amplifies who you already are. It doesn't replace what's missing within you. And this is where the shift happens, the moment you stop seeing your soulmate as the answer to your life and start seeing them as a part of your life, not the center of it, because when your entire sense of fulfillment depends on meeting someone, you place an invisible pressure on that future connection, and that pressure can distort it before it even begins. But when you build a life that already feels meaningful, already feels aligned, then your soulmate becomes an addition, not a necessity. And that changes everything about how you attract and experience love. There's also a deeper spiritual perspective that many people feel but can't fully explain, and that is the idea that certain connections are destined, not in a fixed, unchangeable way, but in a way that depends on growth, on choices, on alignment, and that means your soulmate connection is not just waiting somewhere untouched by time, it's evolving just like you are. It's being shaped by experiences, by lessons, by moments that are preparing both of you for something that goes beyond surface-level attraction. And maybe the most difficult truth of all is that meeting your soulmate requires you to let go of who you thought you needed to be in order to be loved, because many people carry identities shaped by past experiences, trying to be more likable, more acceptable, more perfect, believing that if they just become the right version of themselves, they will finally be chosen. But a soulmate connection doesn't work like that. It's not about being chosen for who you pretend to be, it's about being recognized for who you truly are, and that requires a level of authenticity that can feel vulnerable, even scary, because it means showing up without the masks you've been using to protect yourself. And here's where everything comes together, all the delays, all the lessons, all the pain, They are not random, they are guiding you toward that authenticity, toward that alignment, toward that version of yourself who no longer needs to chase, prove, or question love, because you understand it, you recognize it, and you trust it when it appears. So if you're still wondering why you haven't met your soulmate yet, understand this: it's not because you're behind, it's not because you're unlucky, and it's definitely not because you're unworthy. It's because something bigger is unfolding within you, something that is preparing you for a connection that will match not just your desires, but your growth, your depth, and your truth. And one day, without forcing it, without overthinking it, without chasing it, you will meet someone who feels different from everything you've experienced before, not because they are perfect, but because the connection is aligned, because it reflects who you've become, not who you used to be, and in that moment, all the waiting, all the confusion, all the pain will begin to make sense in a way that words can't fully capture. Because you'll realize that you were never being denied your soulmate. You were being prepared for them, and in the end, the truth is simple. Love was never late, it was always waiting for the right version of you. One day you will meet them, and it won't feel rushed, forced, or confusing. It will feel calm, clear, and meant for you. All the waiting you once hated will suddenly make sense in a way that heals something deep inside you. You will realize that every delay was protection, every pain was preparation, and every lesson shaped your heart for something real. And in that moment, you won't ask, why did it take so long? You'll quietly thank life for not bringing them too soon.